And this is the first of what will be a short series of a Wraith the Oblivion 2nd Edition story. This first part drawing from Wraith the Oblivion 2nd Edition and Wraith the Great War. This is not a performance of a Wraith story. This is an exploration of the system and what it holds. And I have two brave souls who are willing to try it out with me. And let's see what they have to say about who they're going to be for this session. John?
Yes, John Spitzer, Skankin' Spitz here. I will be playing the character of Abel DeForest. He is a 20-year-old, originally from Vancouver Island, but he's now in overseas fighting the Korean War, and he's actually he's quite skilled from a young age. He learned to drive tractors on the farm, so the Army sort of uses that skill to their benefit, and he is a tank driver here in the Korean War. And I have a twin, and I think that's about all that is necessary to know right from the bat.
Okay.
All right. I will be playing Graham Priest. No, Graham Harris. Sorry, confused with another character. Yeah. So, I'm not sure if you can see that properly, but I hope you can.
Yeah.
Now, Graham is a New Zealand Maori, which those of you out there who don't know, that is the native population of New Zealand who the Europeans met when they arrived eventually. And he grew up in the city, eventually becoming a butcher, eventually getting married, and eventually cheating on his wife.
Oof.
And then eventually he enlisted for all the glory, because when he was younger, all his family would always talk to him about how brave his father was and how proud he must be, even though he wasn't there, because his father died in World War II. And this guy was the gunner on top of the tank, and one of the most recent things he had contact with was a letter that he got from his lover that told him that she was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
But he promises that he'll return triumphantly and it'll set things straight and everything will be okay.
He'll return to one woman.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Now, you are a tank crew. Driver, gunner, loader, and the commander. And you have been set to hold this hill against an implacable foe that's been hurling itself against you like an endless tide for week after week, month after month. And at this point in the war, no one is saying anything, but maybe they're winning. Forces have penetrated farther and farther and farther to the north, but now you can't help but notice that stream after stream of supply vehicle and shattered infantry units are making their way south. And you and others in your tank crew have been set to hold this line. Slightly fortified mountain position where your duty is to ensure that the enemy does not get to use the valley below as an access point further south. The fighting has slowly heated up with exploratory missions as the day has gone on. But now, things are insane. All around the tank, what's left of the little bit of greenery is ablaze. 2 hillocks over, you've heard the explosive detonation of the other tank in your unit. Fragments have rained down on top of your position. Still, you're loading, repositioning, firing, loading, repositioning, firing. It almost seems to go on without end. And under it all, quietly, in the background, from somewhere, you hear a wooden sound, almost a musical sound, a repeated tapping. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. Over the sounds of the bombs, over the sounds of the explosions, over the sounds of the gunfire, the cannon fire. Just in the background. Tap, 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 tap. From below, you see the mass of the enemy, some with, some without weapons, some with improvised weapons, dragging behind them artillery, some stolen, some makeshift, fortifying themselves, preparing themselves, just on the extreme range of your main gun. If history repeats itself, then there'll be expeditionary forces coming up the side of the valley, maybe to try to take the tank out from the side.
I stand outside of the tank and look at the opposing forces.
Hatch opens, well-oiled machine. Warm afternoon wind, drying the sweat. Smoke coiling up out of the tank from the change in temperature and from the discharge of the main gun. The enemy forces look like they always do. Starved, hungry, evil.
I'll wipe the sweat from my brow and inhale the fresh air outside of the tank. I look around for my gunner. I know that I can get on his nerves. We've spent so much time together. We indeed have established a camaraderie most men will never know. However, we also can be a bit too close for comfort sometimes.
On top of the tank, the commander opens up with the machine gun, blasting a stream of lead into cover. Shocked, surprised sounds of the wounded reveal that he's hit something.
Alright. I turn and... Shouldn't you be down in there in case we need to drive? That is what you do, right?
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, but I mean, I'd surely like to drive anywhere. We haven't got any orders to do so. Thought that we'd 2 weeks ago. I thought they would tell us to move back. A week ago, I was sure of it, and still none's come.
Orders is orders, and what are we to do? We're in charge of defending the hill, and that's what we have to do.
In the background, you can hear the wooden sound, the tap, 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 tap.
I actually
There's-
dig deep into my ear, because it's a little strange to hear that, and I almost feel like it might be hallucination for a moment.
Your tank rolls into position. You've been given orders to defend this hill. There's no sign of the enemy yet, but you know they'll be coming soon. The rabble, some with weapons, some without weapons, dragging behind them their makeshift artillery or their stolen artillery which you've taken from your dead comrades. The retreat is in full effect. Any moment now, the conflict will begin again.
As soon as we get to the predetermined location, this hill which we must defend, my eyes never really stray far from the inside of the tank. For I've learned a long time ago that it's best to try and shut out all the atrocities that are around us as best as possible.
And well, my companion here, he's lucky he has the option of trying to shut out the atrocities. I don't, because I'm the gunner. I'm committing some of the atrocities.
The enemy pulls into sight at the base, the end of the valley, just out of range. The loader's getting ready. The captain is giving coordinates, getting ready to fire. The other tank in your unit opens fire. Minutes pass. Flames start to sear through the greenery. The little remaining greenery on this hill that you fought over for months, months, months. And then in moments, that other tank is raining fragments down on your position, hit by enemy fire.
Horrified.
Captain cries out, "They've been hit!"
What should we do if we stay here? I don't think our odds of survival are any higher.
There are probably flankers coming up the side of the valley, flankers you cannot see with the smoke and the oil coming off of the tank next to you, filling your own cabin, giving you the desire to cool off, get some fresh air.
Oh,
If we go back, can we? Is there even any escape? They probably have us surrounded by this point.
well, there's only one thing to do then. And I climb to my position in the tank and I continue firing among them. If we truly are surrounded, it may be futile, but
My heart's beating fast, and my lungs and throat are tense, more tense than I've ever known them. As the smoke fills this cabin, and the ricocheted gunshots ring out, making me wish that perhaps that wooden sound wasn't so bad in the first place. And I try to reposition the tank and get on what better ground there is, which probably isn't much here in this mountain range, as it were, on the border of this valley.
The commander opens up with a machine gun on the top deck, firing off to the side of the tank. the shrieking of men he's hit. And for a moment, there's a cool stillness, and all you hear is the tap, 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 tap of the wood. But then, orders are orders, and you're rolling up finally into the position you're supposed to hold on the hill with your allies. Their tank next to yours, just a few hillocks away. In a few minutes, you know the enemies will be coming on the heels of the retreating forces. You've been ordered to hold this hill, hold this line, to cover their escape.
We will do. And if we're ordered to do that, we'll do just that.
Indeed, I see that. Just as he said, our allies are what few that can make their way free are doing so. And for a moment, perhaps I question this whole war, and I question our commanders, the people on our side, what they have us doing. But I suppose I must decide that this is for the best, and perhaps we will be saving lives in doing this.
There are, of course, refugees moving along with the retreating military forces. And although it really is too far away to see faces, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that just for a moment, through the drifting dust of their retreat, you lock eyes with a dirty child, barefoot, moving down the dirt road. But underneath it all, tap, 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 tap. And then suddenly darkness falls. The bright light of the afternoon is gone. The safety of the tank is gone. You're standing on a hilltop. Above you, what was a blue sky with patchy clouds is now just a screaming, empty maw. The ground beneath your feet is bleached of green, bleached of brown, just a gray stone, and steaming, festering cracks and holes with glistening blackness stream down its side, down into the valley. And dimly, almost like an illusion, kneeling before you, right under where the gun would have been, is a young man, maybe 15. He's holding a wooden rattle in his hand and a wooden stick, and he's tapping it slowly as he chants his prayers, as you've heard the Buddhist monks do on those rare occasions when you've had leave.
I look completely perplexed, and I look around, and I look back at this man, and I just say under my breath, this doesn't seem right. And I sort of find my legs carrying me towards him, like, mesmerized sort of by that knocking sound that he's been continuing to make. It seems like I was just in the tank hearing that sound of everything.
It's difficult to hear. Continue.
Oh, I see the man, but I'm paralyzed in fear at the gaping maw of this hellish void above us.
It's difficult to hear him. It's as if he's speaking from a great distance, but also distorted, as though hearing him underwater. But the sense of it all is seeking forgiveness. sorrow, asking that you will understand. For just a moment, the image of the black and shattered hill on which you stand parts, and it's as if huge loaders are digging into the earth, pulling out shattered bits of metal, twisted bits of track, a piece of armor plating on which a beautiful face and the name Lauren is painted. Moving it
No.
from here to somewhere else.
Uh, um, none of this makes sense.
Graham, as you
uh,
touch your face, you feel something wet and slick coming away from your face as you move your hand.
I hold it right in front of me and I look at, like, what is this?
Veinous and pulsing inside, you see a reverse image of your own face. But as it pulls away from your face, more and more of the dead light becomes clear around you. Less and less of the man seeking forgiveness is visible to you.
What? I start looking around, like, panicked for any sight of familiarity, and I'm assuming I could see Abel.
Yes. Abel
Abel,
is there, and there's something like a hood or a caul covering his face, distorting his features, but it is Abel.
what's happened to you?
I don't know. I think I must have got hit in the eye or the head or something. I don't know if I'm hallucinating. You don't look like yourself. I mean, well, everything's blurry, overexposed.
Rubbing your eyes, you feel the tearing. Your vision becomes clearer.
No,
What is this, like a negative? Am I seeing like a negative version of the sky? What is this?
no, like we're in a photograph. The exposed one.
Finally, the sound of the wood dies away.
Did we fall? Did I fall asleep?
I don't know. Where did that gentleman go?
What's the rest? This seems. If it's a dream unlike any other. Never so vivid and so disturbing.
Maybe we're in a hospital right now. People are attending to us, and we're on some sort of strange medicine that's causing us to. I don't know. Oh, this. What is
like
this?
the LSD?
Just behind you, the ghostly image of Lauren, your tank, shimmers into view. Maybe it was always there. Maybe you couldn't see it until just now. Your commander throwing open the lid, swinging the machine gun around, firing into the distance, the main gun hammering, the tank shifting position little by little, and then exploding.
I jump for cover and I try to take Abel with me. Like, get down.
Behind cover, you hear the steaming hiss of the stones from the cracks. but the light coming up is black, if light can be black. You hear the fragments of the tank raining down all around you. But not too long later, you hear the engine as the tank moves into position, as the hatches are sealed, as the gun is loaded, and begins to fire.
I peer out of cover, seeing see Lauren return to her former glory. I run to it.
I have one of my arms around him in an embrace of fear.
To hold him back or to rush forward with you?
Just for myself, I'm just so shook up, and as he grabbed me to come back, I just sort of was clinging on to him, and now as he pulls forward, I sort of reluctantly go with him because I don't want to be alone.
The shell that you have not seen until this point falls down out of a darkened sky, piercing through Lauren's armored flesh, exploding, sending fragments of the commander, hints of the loader, and pieces of yourself scattering all around you.
What?
I fall to my knees in desperation, completely agog and aghast at this out-of-body, out-of-world experience.
I grab him by the shoulder and I pick up my companion, try to bring him to his feet. I don't know what's going on here, but I think we need to run.
In the distance, you hear the sound that you know all too well. The sound of patrols searching through the stones, looking for soldiers cut off from their units. You hear the baying of their dogs.
We don't have a tank. I don't know where we're gonna go, but we can't stay here.
Yeah, I urge my companion to hurry along, and I just run in a direction.
Opposite from the noise, yes.
Back down the hill,
away
back
from
toward your fortified position, perhaps.
Yes.
Why not?
There used to be a road here, but now there's unyielding earth. And again, this hissing, popping, snarling sound coming up from up out of the ground, as if magma or something were churning just beneath the thin skin of the mountain. The mountain looks the same. It's recognizable. You know where you are. You know where you can go. But nothing looks like it should. Behind you, you can hear the main gun of your tank erupting again. But at the same time, you feel a strong pull back down the hill, back toward town. And again, that sense of apology, that sense of someone seeking forgiveness for disturbing you in some way.
This is some sort of bizarre nightmare. Run, let's... No, we can't stop.
That was Lauren, but we just saw her get disintegrated.
You saw a trick of some sort, some trick of the mind. You said it might be medicine. Or maybe we've gone mad.
Yeah, post-traumatic stress, or I guess that would just be traumatic, not very post. I don't know. Let's go.
Your eyes tell you that Lauren is behind you on the hilltop. defending the road, defending the town. But your hearts tell you that Lauren is down below, ahead of you on the road. You can feel her calling to you.
Yeah. I feel as if the real tank that I was in, the real something tangible is down the road, and I rushed there with and began to purpose.
Someone ahead of you on the road is having an argument. Part of this argument is familiar in English. Part of this argument uses different syllables, different tones. It's Korean, a Korean that was always so difficult to learn, but at the same time you know what the person is saying. It makes sense. They're having an argument about being late, but always being late. About the harvesters getting the last ones.
I just look at these like widows. Like, what? How can you just stand around here when this is happening?
Well, yeah. What do you mean last ones?
Their argument breaks off. One, a large man, dressed in fatigues similar to your own, but from a unit you don't recognize, and he's wearing a dark, polished steel mask over his face under his helmet. He breaks off his conversation. A man dressed as a Korean scout is with him, and they react strongly to your question with one word: run. And they point into the broken rocks and cover to the side of the road. Run, they say. The harvesters are coming.
I don't know what a harvester is, but
Yeah, I don't care to find out.
yeah, don't know what it is, but I was running anyway.
They signal to you. They're moving into cover themselves. They're closing with you. Their voices sound sincere. And just for a moment, you see a flash. A flash that lets you know you can trust them. A flash of aura, a flash of insight.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm doing what they say. I'm running like where they pointed. Cover.
Yeah.
What is a harvester? Some kind of weapon?
This mask strikes me as some sort of authority. Like the badge of a sheriff or something. It seems like that to some extent. So I will go ahead and oblige them.
As you get closer, the uniform seems more familiar. It has a sense of command, an aura of honor about it. And as you hide down behind the stones, up from where you fled, you hear the hard scrabble of claws on stone. You hear the strain of chains holding something big back. You hear the shouted guttural commands of the handlers, and then they come around the corner into view. A squad of 6 wearing outlandish steel armor from centuries past. Ahead of them, creatures the size of large dogs, but in no way dogs. Creatures made of flesh with glowing eyes, waves of hatred coming off them, waves of hunger. They move from side to side down the road, looking, smelling, searching. And they pass, leaving you behind.
What were those things? They weren't normal. They weren't normal at all.
The man in the mask says, I'll explain things, but one thing at a time. It will get better, but not much.
Well, that's of a comfort. It's if things got any worse, I don't really want to think about that.
The guide is urging the commander in the mask, saying, we've got to go. They'll come back. There's only 2 more that they could take.
What take? What do they want?
They want you. They want souls. Come on, we have to go. It's too late to save the others.
Yeah, let's go. I don't want them to have us either.
Yeah, I'll go with you, but then I want some answers.
Come with me, and I'll give you your answers.
I scramble
I rush
up
after them.
off the ground, off of cover, and of course follow him.
Yeah, I run after him as well.
Still sticking to as much cover and hiding behind as many things as I can along the way.
Absolutely. The sky gets darker and more threatening as you make your way down the mountain, but the cracks, the hissing cracks and holes in the earth grow fewer. And as you come down to where the town was, you see the shadows of buildings across the ground. You see suggestions of where they stood, hints of corners, door frames, windows. Incomplete, broken, shattered, dead.
I don't recognize this place.
Man, they must have had a lot of shells they were dropping.
Did they drop the bomb?
Well, I mean, what else?
No, like the bomb, not just the kind of things we were firing.
All will be answered. He leads you through the ruins to a small, long house, the L-shaped house you've heard about and seen so many destroyed. A wall around it. He takes you up to the gate, into the inner courtyard of the house where the family who lived here would have worked, made their food, cooked their food, cleaned their clothes. Steps into one small room, invites you to sit.
I can stand.
Suit yourself.
I'll sit.
In here, you cannot see the sky, and that is a blessing. Standing outside the room, you can. Positioning himself so his back is up against the wall and a slightly more comfortable posture than it seemed when he was walking. He shifts the mask on his face but doesn't take it off, but he does remove the helmet, revealing a scarred, black-veined, bald head. He says, "You can call me Jones, former captain. Now I'm not sure what I am, but I'm in charge here trying to get the rest of you home.
They sent for us. We're going home.
I'd rather
In a
be
manner of
anywhere
speaking.
other than here. This is some sort of fantastical place.
But
We-
what happened to the war? I mean, did we win? What did they win?
The war stopped for some. For the living.
What?
The war stopped
You
for the
said
living.
you said you'd give us some answers, and all you're doing is creating more questions.
You're right. I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared to meet people like you today, and not this way. All right. You're soldiers. Listen up. I'm going to explain it clearly using small words. You are dead. This is the afterlife.
That's insane.
So we're here. So all of our. What about our captain and our gunner and the rest of the comrades and the locals that we've met that passed? Are they somewhere around here too? Did they get swept up by those people?
Many, yes. For the dead, the war did not end. And this is a war where the only thing to win is souls, and the only thing of value is control.
We can't be dead. It's
Why not? Are you more special than the rest of us?
is this? Well, no, this can't be it. All that awaits you when we die. I admit it was bleak and in the tank. It didn't look like there was much hope, but we pulled through. Graham stops as he's suddenly bombarded with visions of the tank exploding again and again.
Yes. Visions of how it really ended and how long it has been since that was.
Well, what the heck kind of an afterlife is this? I mean, this isn't any sort of heaven or well, it's not even any hell that I've heard about. I mean, it's certainly hellish, but what the heck is going on? There's people going around searching for if you're dead, why does people enslave the dead?
Yes, they do.
What?
Like I said,
all
there's
that-
a war going on, a war against the end of all things. Look up. There is something out there that wants all things that ever were and ever will be to end. And some of us just don't get it.
Yes.
So we're here to make sure that things don't end. Well, I mean, ended for us, I suppose, but make sure they don't end for everyone.
If I had the answer to that, I wouldn't be crawling through these hills looking for people like you.
Why were you looking for people like us?
The Emperor has decreed he doesn't feel safe enough on the Korean peninsula, and so all those poor souls formerly living out their last few minutes of life, which had been allowed to exist as a tribute to their sacrifice and struggle, are to be rounded up and forged.
Forge. What is that? Like forging metal?
Yes,
Made into something.
often chains to hold others.
Chain.
So those things
Chain.
were after us to make chains. If you want chains, you use iron or steel. This not not not
Not flesh. Well,
yeah.
is this flesh?
As you look down at your hands, you see that, similar to your host, it looks like flesh. It has the memory of flesh, but it cannot be confused with flesh. A short Korean woman pushes her way into the room, and she starts berating the masked officer. She's not wearing a mask. You can see the sincerity, the concern on her face. She's laying into him at high speed in what must be Korean, but yet you can understand it anyway. Berating him for his coldness. How can you introduce them to this new life this way? She drives him from the room and invites you to sit down.
This time I do take a seat.
She bows formally. She thanks you for seating. She introduces herself as Kim Soo-jin.
Kim Soo-jin. I'm Graham.
She bows again.
Abel.
She bows again. And she apologizes for meeting you in this way, and she welcomes you to her home.
Thank you for having us.
You live here.
Yes, this is my home, and I share it with others who are hiding. We're hiding from the Emperor, which would be difficult to explain. The overlord of this area, his forces cannot be opposed, but they can be avoided. And we hide, and we help Americans or foreign soldiers like yourselves when we find them to make their way back to their own resting places.
To our countries.
We try. We're not often successful. And sometimes it's very difficult for us to explain what's happening, especially when people are introduced to this life as you were just now.
Hmm.
Well, he did save us, so we appreciate that, as well as this is the first safe spot that we've found since our arrival here. So thank you very
So,
much.
hmm, Emperor, what's an emperor? What is he? Um, is this like there's a system of government in the afterlife?
Yes, there's a very, very complicated system of government in the afterlife. Everything is strictly regimented, and the Emperor will resist the forces of oblivion with every ounce of his strength, but in so doing, he also eradicates freedom and our ability to move on. He demands we stay here forever, and this place was meant to pass through, not stay in.
I don't want to stay here.
I'm thinking oblivion, this life. This is all overwhelming.
Again, I am sorry. You never should have had your call removed in such a way.
Our call.
You have been fighting the war on top of that hill since your lives came to an end. And
So it. Wait, how long?
let's talk about that part later.
Okay.
Korea, my homeland, is still not free.
Uh-huh.
In the Skinland, in the land of the living, Korea is free and
So
glorious. But here we are under the thumb of the Emperor. No
emperor.
matter how strong our resistance grows, he manages to push us down. And whenever the newly dead appear here in the Shadowlands, we try to reach them first. But he
You're
usually
the
reaches them first.
you're the resistance.
Yes,
How do you fight this emperor?
by hiding and making alliances with whoever we can.
The emperor, is he some dead guy?
She laughs. She's basically a cheerful soul. And she says, everyone you're going to meet from now on is just some dead guy. And sadly, many of the things that you'll use will also be just some dead guy.
Wait a minute. So we can never go back and see our family or friends?
Oh, well, not like you could in life.
Well, how can we?
The barrier between worlds is not always a complete barrier. Sometimes it can become a window, and for some it can become a door, but never for very long.
This makes no sense.
Well, I suppose I'll worry about my family when I get back home. I used to put the cart before the horse. So how do people get around? I mean, you say you help people get home, but I mean, are there continents here? Well, you mentioned the Korean Peninsula. I mean, are things as they were? Well, not as they were, but I mean, are things analogous to?
Let's save the details until you can deal with the basics. Some things are the same, some things are terribly different. How we get people home, maybe you're not ready for that explanation yet, but we will tell you soon. We will tell you soon. But first we need to get far away from here. The patrols of the Emperor are rising, and we must find a safer place. The family that was offering protection to this area, the family that sold themselves out to the Emperor to provide a little bit of freedom for those inside their walls, they have been stripped of their position, and we must leave this place. I must leave my home.
The okay. We'll go with you.
Now, inside both of you, you feel this tie, this pull. When she talks about leaving this place, when she's physically moving toward the door to leave this place, you feel a pull in a different direction. The sense that Lauren, your safe place, is not where she's going.
Where are you taking us?
We must head south. The Emperor's forces are scouring the area from north to south. It's always north.
But we can come back here, right?
Perhaps.
Okay. I think
We have a tank. It's where we died. It's not far from here.
You have a tank?
Yes, well, I was the driver for this tank, and Graham here operated the artillery on it, and yeah, that's where we were when we expired.
She's looking at you very carefully. And her eyes open. And you feel almost as if you were a guitar string, you would be vibrating with the force with which you have been plucked. Not in a bad way. A harmonious note connecting you to Lauren. And she says, yes, you must go.
we must go to the tank?
Yes, you must.
Will you come with us?
Of course, I will come with you.
Thank
we
you.
cannot let it fall into their hands, and we must go now.
Okay. I don't see why, but okay.
The courtyard erupts into life. The scout from before, the commander from before, a few other less well put together individuals, very clearly not human, but very clearly happy for the opportunity for action, greet you kindly. Some from units you recognize, some American, some Korean, all soldiers. Sujin says, come, we must go.
All right.
and watching you both very carefully, manages to guide you into leading them to where Lauren is.
Okay. So we're making it to Lauren.
You feel with every footstep you are drawing closer to her.
Okay.
As you
I
get
feel,
near what used to be the edge of town, the feeling gets even stronger.
All right. How's
I
the
feel
feeling
like
go?
we're gonna be safe once we get there.
Of course, I know what you mean, but I can't understand that. Why I feel like that? Because we weren't safe when we were in the tank before. Because now we're here.
Maybe it's just a physical reaction. As I say physical, I sort of look down at what body, what corpus I have now. Maybe it's just sort of a physical reaction, muscle or mind memory. It's a point of familiarity. I don't know.
Whatever it is, I feel like we should listen to this woman and hurry there.
You're near the edge of town, although you walk for quite a distance with nothing around you, just the broken earth. Whatever came and took this village away took most of it. But then as you get close to the sense of Lauren, you distantly hear the sound of workmen, sound of vehicles, and just for a moment, just a brief moment, the mists of the shroud part, and you see the remains of Lauren, dug from the earth, piled, wrapped lovingly in the back of a long flatbed truck. But then that is quickly replaced by Lauren herself. New, strong,
I run
except
to the.
for the large hole where your commander used to stand.
I just instinctively feel like I should run in and get into that tank, and that's just what I do.
It is as you remember it, although the light is not.
Hmm.
As soon as I get in, I go to my seat and sit down, much like a infant with a pacifier in its mouth, as a way to sort of calm myself. Hopefully, at least, sort of touching everything, getting the tactile memory down.
The others climb aboard, staying on the outside, Kim Soo-jin leaning in through the opening.
I look at her and say, "Does will it still work?"
Yes, drive it. We must head south. Slowly, as quietly as possible. Stay off the roads.
Okay.
You heard the lady.
Yeah. Yeah. No problem at all. I don't care to drive on these roads at all anyway. Everything seems to be in perfect order, strangely enough, just as it always was.
This is how we remember it. I feel.
It starts up at a touch.
All right, well, gonna go slow. Hopefully you'll be on the lookout, Graham. If that gun works anywhere as well as the rest of this does, we should be fine on that end.
And with that, I go to my gunnery seat.
The operation of the gun does not seem to be impaired by the visible yet seemingly unimportant damage to the roof.
Tempted to try it, but I don't. I just wait. Who knows if I need to use it against those like creatures with their howl dogs and all that crap.
Your hand stretches out instinctively towards the trigger. As soon as your finger touches it, you'd already decided that not to do it, but as soon as your finger touches it, you decide for a second time that it's best perhaps not to let any rounds go at this place at this time.
Right, so I just have my finger on it?
Yeah, your finger.
And you have no memory of putting it there. But it feels good.
And because I'm so perplexed about this, I fire. I pull the trigger.
You were always the most competent member of this crew, anyways.
Although no shell was loaded, the gun fires. A flat crack echoes across the dead landscape around you, and in the silence that falls afterward, the hissing of the cracked earth seems louder still, almost like summer insects buzzing, almost as if there's a conversation going on all around you all the time that you've just now become aware of, but then it fades away into the background, leaving only silence and the shocked looks of the resistance fighters who are clinging to the outside of the tank. And Kim Soo-jin looks in and says, "Have you gone mad?
What's going on? What are you doing?
Hurry! Go! Go! Go!"
It wasn't loaded. Yeah, you heard the lady. Abel, drive. As fast
I'm
as
going.
Lauren Carrier. It's time to put eggs in our shoes and beat it.
Lauren responds smoothly, tearing across the ground, moving off-road, and heading into the hills. With some now angry advice from the commander, you're guided through the valleys. Some look familiar, some do not. Heading in a direction that the compass in front of you indicates is south. And after an hour or two, he recommends you slow the pace and look for some place to hide. Having left one set of patrols behind and trying to evade any others.
Where the hell can we hide a tank?
I'm gonna sort of search this landscape or deathscape, perhaps, as it is, and see if I could find anywhere suitable.
Okay. So, what sort of place would be suitable, do you think? Natural environment? Are you trying to find the wreckage of a building? Or what?
I was thinking perhaps a large cave, or not really a cave, but an alcove, a large alcove that would be good enough to sort of get us in there, where we'd only have to worry about one side. But yeah, the wreckage, the ruins of a house could serve that purpose just as well.
With your allies, the search is methodical. This is something they've done before, though never with an object so large. Looking for a place to hide from the forces of the Emperor. And as you search, they're talking about the tactics of the Emperor, how they come in small squads, how they come with creatures that used to be men that have been turned into beasts, their sanity stripped away and their human forms stripped away, chained up with the soul-forged fetters of weaker souls who could not survive the pull of oblivion here. They search for the newly dead to bring them into the service of the Emperor, and if they will not submit to his service, to forge them into useful forms to preserve the Empire against oblivion. They all seem very sincere, as outlandish as it seems. And the evidence of your eyes is the evidence of your eyes. After 2 hours of searching, the wreckage of a house large enough to serve as cover and shelter for Lauren is found, and you're able to move her inside.
And I will do so. I'll back her up slowly into the corner of the foundation of this house.
Right. After that, the usual arguments begin. The Emperor's forces will be on the lookout for this machine. They'll want it more than anything else. They'll want to take it and you. Is saving it worth all of your lives? This argument doesn't include you, but you can't help but hear it, no matter how far away from you it goes.
Alright, I walk to them and say, hey, this is our tank, and me and Abe are not giving it up with or without you guys.
Actually, everyone nods kind of understandingly, as if they know exactly what you're talking about, but it doesn't seem to change their worries or concerns. Their primary concerns seems to be, what are we going to
do?
Is there any spot that the Emperor can't touch, or does he have? I mean, I'm sure you have small pockets of safety, but is there an area that's contested or somewhere where there's relative safety?
No. But for you, agreements exist with the Shadowlands of your people to an exchange of the dead, but I've rarely seen them carried out.
Exchange the dead?
You won't be able to properly rest here. You don't understand how things work here, and you have things pulling you which are far, far away, things to which you must attend before you can move on.
Okay. I don't have all the information. I can't.
No.
I can't interact with you people. You just what I think I'm getting a grip on what's happening. You mentioned like Oblivion or Pools or some just something that I don't have that apparently changes everything that I won't understand.
Don't worry. We'll help you.
I don't know what Oblivion is, and I don't know if I want to know. Sounds like something to be avoided. I'm all for getting out of here and back to where I'm from.
Commander Pipe said, "You don't want to fight? You don't want to help free these people?"
Of course I do. That's why I was here in the first place before I died, and I still want that. But if it's as hopeless as you say it is, I mean,
who says it's hopeless? I just said it was hard. It's ridiculous. Buck up, son.
Well, we've got a tank now that should. I mean, pros and cons. I know it's going to be perhaps easier to get caught with it, but it should lend some
Big
additional firepower. I mean, we can't just get rid of it.
The woman is now directing her attention to the commander, and she's reached out and she's lightly touching his arm. And where it's touching, streamers of darkness, actual black mist, is rising up from her hand, rising up out of his flesh. And you see him relax and hastily excuse himself from the conversation.
What?
Her fingers are stained black from where she touched him.
What did you just...
There are many things that we need to talk about, piece by piece. If you trust me, and if you trust the rest of us, we will take care of you. And we'll make sure that Oblivion and the Empire don't take you, but it will take time. If you will stand with us, we will stand with you. We can see that you are good people, and I trust that in time you'll see that we are too. But I will show you, not just tell you.
Show me. Go right ahead. I accept your proposition.
Time passes. Staying with the resistance, you learn things. You learn about the barrier between the land of the living and the land of the dead, which makes it often impossible to interact, which distorts your perceptions of what's happening there, worse than trying to see through thick fog or murky water. You learn that everything around is a tie. It wasn't it to move on. You learn about relics, things that were so important you carried them into the afterlife. Objects that I beat, and you learn about that from now on you will, and and from now on, be wary about to whom they speak. Ways to make your life on this side of the shroud easier. Ways to travel distances, ways to keep track of the things which bind you to your former life. Ways to touch the land of the living. But she's right. It takes time. How much time? No one is ever really willing to say. But you have the sense that the men that you were when you first climbed into the tank and took up this fight in the Korean Peninsula would be old men now, had they lived. Because of the forces of the Empire and the endless patrols and searching of the Emperor's teams, you have been driven far, far, far to the south. Most of those original resistance fighters that you have met have gone on to other things. Some claimed by the forces of Oblivion, specters. Some claimed by forces of the Emperor. Some just disappearing.
Disconcerting.
Now you find yourself battered brain Lauren, still functional, still on the south coast, looking at what should be a sea, but seems more like the thick, oily skin of some seas down. Thin serpent ahead of you, narrow, rocky pathway behind you, and the forces of the Empire may be very close. It feels like there's nowhere left to run.
Nowhere left to run, huh? Well, there's only one thing to do. What do you think, Abel?
I'm sort of sitting there looking at my reflection. I'm part of the metal, which is probably wouldn't be shiny in the tank as it originally was, but part of this metal is sort of shiny and reflects back at myself, and I'm looking at myself. I don't think I always looked like this, did I?
No.
I mean, I know I have for a while. I can hardly recall what I did look like, but it wasn't this. And I sort of look over at him, and Abel's face, his whole cranium has sort of become smashed in and elongated, very, very much so, inhumanly so, very, very grotesque. His upper body and his legs are more or less as they would be, but one of his shoulders is sort sort of caved in, as well as that side of his head, and his eye was sort of smashed and stretched out like taffy.
No, you definitely didn't always look like that.
And I hate to break it to you, but well, you're not exactly the same guy you were either.
And just to give you an image, Graham looks battered. Like, it's what happens when you get flung around a metal box, well inside a metal box for a while, and emaciated. Is this how we died?
I suppose so. I never really noticed that I turned this way until, well, I suppose the more I thought about our last moments, the worse it got.
I don't think you look like that when we were running from those creatures when we just got out of that tank.
This place, it does things to you. We've got to get off this island.
Do anything to get out of here.
I mean, things aren't exactly, of course, as they were in our old world, but there are still some physics, of course. I don't know if you really want to attempt taking the tank across the sea of whatever that is.
The sea? Is the water different? In here?
Very different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, during some of your descriptions earlier, Runeslinger, it was, at least on my end, cutting out a bit.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yes, very different. The water, what should be water, is well, like the oily skin of a diseased creature.
I don't want to travel through that.
Well, I don't either, but I mean, it's either that or eventually, I mean, sure, we may end up running from the Emperor for a year or 2 years or 10 years, but eventually we're gonna get caught. Or perhaps worse, maybe we're never caught and we just keep running forever.
We can't evade. If we stay here, we can't evade them forever.
Sometimes I feel like maybe we should go back to where it all started. I know it couldn't do any good, but I have the same tug I have to this tank. I have the tug to carry out our orders. Of course, you probably do too. It was what we were doing, the last thing we were doing.
The hill.
Yeah, the hill.
What's the point in going back? It's already.
I don't know. I know it's a fruitless endeavor, I'm sure, but if we could just push him back. I know that we can't be defeated, but perhaps, I don't know. perhaps we could loosen the tug and it could be easier for us to leave this place. Or perhaps it would be best for us to just never go back and try to sever our ties to it as best as possible. I don't know. I know I'm the driver, but most of the time I just take orders, do what I'm told.
Sujin says, I wonder what would happen if you were to turn this tank around and raise a flag and drive forward against the Emperor. I wonder who you could inspire to follow you.
You think we could defeat this Emperor?
As with all things, it is the endeavor that matters, not the outcome, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I guess sometimes, but equally sometimes I don't think you should bother if something's impossible.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if we weren't going to bother with something that was impossible, we should have ran away from the hill in the first place before we've died. I mean, now that we've come this far, we've already sacrificed our lives for this once. I mean, perhaps we can't defeat the Emperor, you're right, but perhaps we could inspire hope within the people here. Or perhaps it could fulfill this duty that we had. Perhaps we wouldn't feel so bound to defend this land which isn't even ours.
That's a good point.
I mean, it's either that or that diseased, sickly sea, which I care not for.
Is it dangerous? I turned to come and what is that?
From the surface of the sea, from the shadows between where the waves should be, but they look like folds of flesh, and from those hissing cracks that fill the edges of the beach, shadows are beginning to rise. Shadows that have been pursuing you, shadows you've seen before, things you know are specters, growling and snarling and hungry. And as they slide and slither and inch and grind their way toward the tank, we'll drop the curtain on tonight's session and say good night.
Thank you for watching.